I am Halli Casser-Jayne, and welcome to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, where along with my partner in politics, veteran White House correspondent Matthew Cooper, we slice and dice all things politics, and some days, Donald Trump too. On this episode of the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, move over Fred Rodgers. There's a new gentle giant in America, and his name is Joe Biden. Following the ABC-NBC dueling debates, radical right-wing operative Trump advisor Mercedes Schlapp, who thought she was insulting Biden when she tweeted, and I quote, ABC Politics Townhall feels like I am watching an episode of Mister Rodgers Neighborhood, was herself slapped down for thinking it was an insult to compare Biden to Fred Rodgers, the late children's TV host, revered as a patient, inclusive, and kind person. Is that what Trump has wrought? Mr. Rodgers is now the bad guy? From there, we tackle the hearings for SCOTUS nominee Amy Phoney Barrett, the nationwide rise in COVID cases, the Senate races, and the big Democratic money hauls, Rudy Giuliani, Russia, Christie's Mea culpa, Florida, and yes, that's just where we begin. Here we go. Welcome, my friends. Here's where we are. Oh my gosh, this week, yes, another milestone. It is a weekly event, and I'm looking forward to the day that it's not. There are more than 8 million cases of COVID-19 in the United States, more than 221,000 dead. The cases are rising just about everywhere. And on the job front, the picture is not good either. 898,000 new claims for unemployment benefits were filed last week, according to the Department of Labor. Economists had forecast a lot less, and the total of unemployment claims for the week of October 10th was the highest since mid-August, a sign that the coronavirus pandemic has continued to hammer the economy. With that in mind, there are 17 days, Matt, 16 hours, 4 minutes, and let me check, 39 seconds until election 2020. But who's counting? You know what I'm getting good at? Sighing. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, Halli. How are you?
God. You know, you asked, I'm going to tell you. It's been a crazy couple of weeks. You know, I lost my puppy of 22 years. That was devastating.
22 years. I don't think I appreciate it.
Right. 22 years.
I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of years.
That's a lot of years. She was really something, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done, I swear. But, you know. Then I did what my doctor told me to do, and I got a flu vaccine. And got so sick the day before yesterday, I had to take to the bed with a fever.
Yeah. Fever.
Crazy sick, stomach ache. Oh my God. I thought I had COVID.
This can happen. Yeah.
But I thought it was COVID. I said, I went to
I can understand why you would feel that way.
Oh my God. I mean, so that's we don't talk a lot about ourselves, and people are always asking me about you and me and us and who are we and whatever. That's been my hell. How's life with you before we go into the depths of it all?
Gosh, nothing that exciting here in Washington. You know, just watching the Follies. But I'm due for a flu shot. You got me a little nervous, but
Yeah. I hadn't had one in a long time.
I have a colonoscopy coming.
Oh, thank you for sharing those details. I've never done that. I've never done that. I should do that, right? Yeah.
I think you should do it. You know, I mean, you're only 29.
I know, but still. Oh, my gosh. Stuff doesn't run in my family. I don't know. That just, oh, my God. But the colonoscopy to Donald Trump, that seems a good bridge.
It's a good segue.
Oh, my word. All right. Let's start with last night and the dueling debate between not Biden and Trump as it was supposed to be, but between Biden and George Stephanopoulos and Trump versus Savannah Guthrie. I'm going to say this before we get into it. I have never been as angry, and I am still angry, at NBC. What a boneheaded decision. how inappropriate.
By boneheaded, you mean doing the town hall at the same time?
Exactly. It was a disgrace in my mind. And in fact, I refused to watch it. I actually did boycott. What I did was I watched it later on, got clips from YouTube. I said, I am not giving them, a Nielsen rating on this. Did you feel as angry about that as I did? Because it's part of the problem of why this country is where it is today. Your thoughts?
Well, I agree. I think it was bad. I think it was a crass business decision. I don't think it probably even worked in terms of goosing the ratings. And, it was offset a little by the fact that I thought Guthrie did a good job in a complicated situation.
Right, I agree.
But yeah, I mean, it was boneheaded. And, even on air, people at NBC were saying how crazy it is. I mean, the MS people were all like, we didn't do this. It's not even our show tonight.
Yeah, Rachel was quite interesting about how she expressed herself on that. I agree.
That said, I mean, it is a DVR nation. I mean, anyone who wants to see both can see both.
Well, that's not the point, though. It's not the point.
I agree.
Yeah, it's not the point. And it's, it's the degradation of the news media, and take the news out of it because it's media. Right. It's clickbait. However we can get our soaring ratings or what have you. So, and we just don't stop. Everybody, could we get back in line with what's right versus what's wrong, what's moral, what's not, what's a good decision versus a political decision? Oh, boy. That said, we go on and we go to how Trump versus Savannah Guthrie. I mean, it was interesting they put him up against a woman because we know how he does with women. I thought he... Yeah,
NBC chose her.
Yeah. Actually, it was interesting. I always thought her best performances were when she was on with Chuck Todd in the morning. And she's been gone downhill ever since. She really is not she's a newswoman, and she gets degraded on Today's Show as far as I'm concerned, with the cutesy. Okay. But here's the deal. He looked like holy hell, Matt.
Really? See, I totally disagree, but I'm curious what you think.
Because I want you to go back and look at the tape, and I want you also to notice him now. His pupils are so dilated. I don't know what the hell they have him on, but all you see is the black of his eyes. I mean, it's frightening to see, seriously. And he looks like a carry-on animal bird. Not to mention...
You don't mean carrion like a dead bird.
Well, the kind that go out and do it, the ones you see in the streets. They're carrion birds. What are they called? Like, they eat off the... He just looked like a bird of prey.
Oh,
he's out to... a bird of prey. He's out to get it. He's out to do it. And if he talked any faster or was more hyped up or sweating more... Who was the great debate who he sweated and lost the election because of it? Remember?
Well, Nixon has been,
there you go.
Nixon debates. So.
Well, that's what he was looking like. He was looking like the sweat ball.
Yeah. I had a very different impression.
Oh, my God. Yeah, talk to me.
Well, I thought he seemed, I thought he looked healthier than he has in a long time. It looks like he lost a little weight during this COVID thing, and I just thought his affect was more spry and less doughy than usual. I actually thought he looked pretty good.
Wow.
Now, the words out of his mouth are still
crazy, right? Crazy Uncle Trump.
But but I had a very different impression of his affect.
Wow.
And I confess I didn't notice the eyes, but maybe if I look more
closely. Go back and take a look. Yeah, absolutely. And the sweating.
I mean, I thought he was pretty good. I thought he came out of the gate pretty strong and then went to, full bonkers.
But that's how he always is. He always starts off good, and then he always devolves.
Starts off and you think he's going to be human, and you're like, oh, he's acting like a human.
No, he it's his shtick. I mean, he is who he is, who he is, who he is. That's what I tweet. He is. And everybody keeps expecting that he's going to be something different. I find it interesting that the compelling nature of him imploding and being crazy is what attracts everybody to him. Like if you wanted to choose between Biden and him, most of us, it's kind of like choosing between watching a Nixon debate and watching, Harper Marx and Marx Brothers. You're going to go for the Marx Brothers. You're not going for, he's so crazy. So it's attractive. Not to me, by the way, but it is, I think, what, you just get drawn into. It's not going to be boring, and the other side may be boring.
I love when you use a contemporary reference like the Marx Brothers.
I couldn't think of anybody else who's funny anymore.
He's like Fanny Arbuckle.
You got anybody? new?
Lillian Gish.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. I like all that old stuff.
I
know you tease, and I love it. But I think I'm making a fair point here.
I agree. I mean, it's a cage match, and I know you're going to get to Biden in a minute, but the contrast was quite stark last night, even more than usual.
Yeah, and he says some the QAnon that he can't let go of that. He admitted that he owes money, but he says not to a foreign entity. Well, excuse me, but who's holding most of his money is Deutsche Bank. Hello, $400 million debt.
Well, that was actually a news-breaking thing.
Yeah.
That he basically coughed that up.
Right.
By the way, even if you accept his claim from 2016 that he's worth $10 billion, which is bullshit, the $400 million is still a lot.
You think?
I mean, it's not a small debt. Even
it's
if
insane.
You do have assets of $10 billion. I mean, it's not.
You realize he has no assets really that are worth anything right now, because the one business that's been hurt the most in all of this are hotels, and hospitality industry. He's getting murdered on his golf courses.
Hotels, hospitality, and golf are
so I mean, the reality of where he probably is something else. But I sensed the desperation in him. I don't think I was putting it there. I think I was feeling it through listening to him and watching him and his delivery. And I've never seen that in him, and I've noticed it in the last couple of weeks that it's there, and it's fascinating to me because it's like blood, Matt. When people start to sense that somebody gets into desperation and they're throwing everything at, that people don't like that. They really don't. All right, and on Joe,
I agree.
And on Joe.
Well, it was like using the Calm app on your phone. It was very, it's like one of those tranquil voices that lulls you to sleep on your iPhone. It was boring in its normalcy and thus refreshing. The whole pace was slower. The audience was thinner. The questions more substantive. And his whole demeanor was like, I'm going to explain this. I was particularly struck by a couple of moments in this debate. One is when the young African-American man asked about, what are you going to do for African-Americans? And then it's interesting, he didn't lean on Obama. He didn't say, I worked with Obama, hint, hint. And he didn't say, I chose Kamala Harris, hint, hint, which would have been the easy sort of thing to start doing. Instead he offered a rather detailed answer about, home equity and things the government could do to promote home equity and small business loans. He went very wonky, and I thought it was quite effective.
The guys, did I answer your question? And the guy kind of looked at him like he wasn't sure that he had, and he said, well, let's talk afterwards. And apparently he did stay another hour or so after the thing, which is what he likes to do. I'll tell you about Joe. First of all, can we totally erase that his brain doesn't work and that he's got Alzheimer's disease? Trump has Alzheimer's. This guy is amazing to me. I mean, he far more wonky than I'm used to even him coming across as, but he's got command and you can see him thinking and why he answers a question the way that he answers it. He's very deliberative, like when they got to the question of what he's going to do about packing the courts. He waited and he explained why he doesn't want to answer the question right now, which is very not normal from a politician these days. I thought that he needed to be commended on that. Whether he will ever say anything about it until after the election is another conversation, but that's politics.
Well, he promised he would do it before the election, but after this.
And I think that's, and I think he's correct about that. And so, once it's a setup for the Republicans, because what's going to happen. They're going to do it. And that leaves him the option of saying, this was inappropriate. All bets are off. When we get in there, we'll see how it goes. I think it's perfectly okay. And I am for packing the courts, in case you couldn't tell.
Right.
But the reason
it's
go ahead.
I think his current answer is better than
last week.
A few days ago,
he
just said, "I'm not going to tell you."
Right. And the thing about it is we got to get this court thing straightened out, and it's not right now. It's a mess. And it's just so killing this country. So however it needs to be done. And see, that's the thing about Joe. Joe can do stuff and do it even if it's painful. And I think he'll be able to bring in the other side, because I think where he is in his life right now is different than maybe 5 years ago or 10 years ago. You listen to Joe now. He makes you listen to him.
He does do that. And
that's a gift. That's a gift.
Yeah. I mean, I think, look, it's just the contrast with Trump that's really his strength at the moment.
You think so? I think it's more than that. I think it's also about where he is.
I think it's more than that. I think, yeah. I mean, I do often think since in the last month or so how different this would be if Warren or Bernie or Harris had been the nominee.
Yeah, exactly. Now, we talked about George Stephanopoulos, who I did think asked the right questions. I was surprised because he hasn't always been so good at these things. But in his very laid back, kind of kickback way, he held Biden to answer some tough stuff. The crime bill, for instance, which is another thing I thought he handled brilliantly. He had that answered down.
Yeah, he was clearly ready for that.
Yeah, and he hadn't been all this time. So,
Yeah, I think just as Biden was calmer than Trump, the ABC kind of went for lower production values. NBC had the dramatic bridge to.
Well, they used that last week with the same place. That was the same. That was the same setting they used when Lester Holt did Trump.
Yes, the Constitution Center.
Yeah.
But I mean, it wasn't as visually arresting as the NBC set, but in a way, I thought that was better.
Yeah. I agree. There was one woman, she was heavy but attractive. She said she was a Republican, and
yeah, she was. Yeah,
I watched her face go from "I want to be combative with you" to "Wow." Thought that was.
Yeah, he definitely seemed to win her over.
Yeah, and I thought that was fascinating too. Mercedes Schlapp.
Can I give you one little aside from the Biden?
Oh, of course, please do.
A little bit of stuff that may have Only a weird geezer like me would have noticed. But he got asked a question by the Republican man with gray hair, who is the son of former Reagan Transportation Secretary Drew Lewis.
Yeah. He had a mean face.
Yeah. What's interesting is Drew and Biden was all like, "Oh, hey, yeah, great, very, very kind of cordial and warm." And I mean, Drew Lewis is little remembered now, but he was the point man for firing all the air traffic controllers.
Oh,
in 1981, and was a real bête noire of Democrats and liberals and unions at the time. So for Biden to be so gracious towards the son, and really, what else could he do? Was just kind of telling,
Interesting. He was allowed to be there.
Yes. Well, he was an independent, right? He had written in Kasich in 2016.
Yeah. Interesting.
And he was undecided this time. So, anyway, it was kind of a little interesting backstory.
Yeah. So I wanted to get to Mercedes.
It's more than people needed.
Yeah. No. Those kind of stories are fascinating and how all this works. But I did want to get to Mercedes Schlapp, Matt Schlapp's wife, who works in the White House, and she's just forgive me, I'm going to call it for what it is. She's a dingbat. She has said some of the most outrageous things through all of this on her Twitter feed. It's just really pathetic. And she's right as far into Trump as you can possibly get. She said, thinking she was being meaning what she wrote. It's like watching Mister Rodgers' Neighborhood, watching Biden, which to me was the biggest compliment she could have given Biden.
Yes, you and many others, said that. Absolutely.
Well, put this in its perspective, which is that gives you an insight into the thinking of these people.
Yeah, I mean, do people want the Joker or Mr. Rogers?
Well, but also this is how they are so illegitimate in their politics, Matt, that it comes, I want to use the words good and evil, but you can, it's like watching Mr. Green Jeans and whatever that show was back. There was the good guy and the bad cop, the old Westerns, there's only good, there's only bad.
Right.
And they're so into winning. They've lost touch with what's good. It doesn't matter. It's at all costs. And so Mr. Rogers is a loser because he's a nice man. What?
Yeah. Well, that was revealing of their thinking and their attitudes, and
needed to put that out there because it's inappropriate. It really tells you just how crazy this party will become. And at the end of the show, stick with us, guys, because I got something very important to say about this and this Republican Party. All right, let's go to, so there's another debate. We don't know whether it's going to happen or not.
Yeah, there's one scheduled, right?
Right. So we'll see. But parlor game. Should Biden do it or shouldn't he?
I don't think he has a good excuse. I mean, he's probably better off not doing it because he's on a good track to win, and you don't want to do anything that might upset the apple cart. But on the other hand, it's been scheduled. There's, Trump's healthy. He's tested negative, according to NBC. I don't see what excuse Biden could use to get out of it.
Oh, so well, there is he does have, the building in the background. There is a little something, which is, of course, Kamala's off the campaign trail because some of her people tested positive. So they're just in the precaution. They're keeping her on virtual for the next few days. Turns out that Biden's pilot tested positive and he was on the plane, Biden, obviously. So,
well,
there's that floating in the background. Just thought I'd roll that by you.
I mean, I think Biden will do fine against Trump. So as he did in the first one, I don't think Trump will be as bad in the last one as he was in the first one.
Well,
but
we'll see. Let's get to the Senate race.
But it tells you where we're at. I don't even think it really matters, in a way.
Yeah. Yes. It doesn't when you consider how many people have already voted, number one, and will have by that point. The gargantuan numbers of people.
Yeah, I mean, who are these undecided voters?
It's stupid.
I'm waiting to see his position on forestry.
I mean, it's just forestry.
I want to think a little bit more about the kids in here. I'm torn.
I don't know, and I don't take them seriously either. I just don't. I mean, it's like, it's like a grab for fame and for, I'll be on your
really
show.
No new information to be had.
Nothing. I mean, there wasn't before this all started from the time that Biden proved that he wasn't, riddled with,
right.
some kind of brain disease, that, that's where we were. Let's get to this concept of early voting, though, is going to be impactful. And I know that, wherever you look, I mean, the lines are insane. And, but what's going to happen when the Republicans start to vote later? Will they have lost their momentum by that point? Because it looks so bad for Trump. Will they just say, I'm too tired to go and vote? Or will the pandemic be so bad by that point? Because, boy, on a daily basis, we're going to talk in a minute, it gets even worse on every hour.
Yeah, I don't think I think it's all going to have backfired that the Republicans talked down voting by mail so much.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Discouraged their people from doing it.
And they're old people, which they needed the most, were the least likely.
They turned early voting into a blue wave.
Yeah.
And then that's going to depress turnout showing up. I think they made a big mistake here.
Yeah. I agree with you totally. But not to tell you that I'm not a nervous wreck about this, because I think it's a lot closer than the polls are showing. And
yeah, and he's going to declare victory before all these absentees.
Well, we're gonna get to that in a second, because I got some news for you. I want to get to the Senate races real quickly before we do Amy Phoney Barrett. And I just want to say that the amount of money these Democratic people who are running, not all senators, current senators, but the people who are going after the Republicans is insane. It's Steve Bullock raised $26.8 million in 3 months. Dane's only 11. I mean, they're doubling, tripling. I mean, we know what happened in Georgia. Vast amounts of money on the Democratic Party. Question for you, Matt, and you've been around this so much longer because you're so much older than I am.
Right.
Does money translate into votes?
Well, it doesn't hurt. I think, it's definitely possible to blow money and, it doesn't help. But in general, yeah, you want it. So much is inverted because of the COVID crisis that, you don't have door-to-door canvassing the way you used to. So now it's pretty much all an air war.
And phone banking.
And basically there's an unlimited amount you could spend on social media. I mean, at a certain point on TV, you've bought all the airtime you can get. It's a finite quality.
Which is about where we are, by the way, down here, because that's all there is. Yeah,
you go to a swing state. I mean, they couldn't buy more airtime if they wanted.
No, it's wherever you go. It's just Biden. It's insane. The
lawn signs, not so much, right? I mean,
the what? I didn't hear.
The lawn signs.
No, that's new. That's one of the things I'm going to talk to you about. I have to tell you that you could not find a Hillary sign in Florida, in Central Florida, north. I'm actually south.
Right.
But I'm right on the border. You couldn't find a Hillary sign anywhere, darling. None. And Biden is everywhere. Everywhere. And I talked to the president of the Democratic Party here in this county quite at length. I'm helping her out with something. And they're astonished. They've never seen anything like it. And people don't care. They're just like, yep, I'm for Biden. What I did see over the weekend, I happened to go down to the beach, and on the way there, you do. It's like being in El Salvador again. I got to tell you, Matt, because back in the day, they would have their big trucks, and they would have guys sitting in the back of the trucks with big flags, the right wingers, and that's what we're seeing here. So these big souped up trucks are driving up and down US 1 with big flags that you look first and you go, is that the Confederate flag? No, it's a Trump flag. And they just, with things coming out of their windows, and they're going, vote Trump, vote Trump. It's just utterly bizarro, I got to tell you. But Biden's everywhere. He's in flags on the lawn, coming off the porches. A lot of Biden signs. It's shocking, and not as many Trump signs as one would imagine. But there is. We'll get back to Florida in a second. I don't want to jump ahead of the game, but I did want to make the point that the Democratic contenders for Senate seats are raising fortunes and fortunes of money. You are listening to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. The Halli Casser-Jayne Show posts new podcasts weekly at hallicasserjayne.com and is available wherever you listen to your podcasts. Be sure to find us on Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and on all your favorite apps. You can find the Halli Casser-Jayne Show on your Alexa device, too. Just say, the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. Oh, and come play with me on Twitter at Halli Show Quotes. Let's just go to Amy Phoney Barrett, because we got to go to Amy. Oh, my God. Oy. I found her to be... I find the whole thing to be just pathetic. I understand that where the Democrats are, Matt, and I understand that they know that, there's no point in raising a whole lot of whatever because she's getting in no matter what they do, so let's not even play there. And the less we do, maybe the less the press is going to pick it up so that we can still talk about COVID, which they're doing, by the way. It's not getting the press that it would have gotten if it was as contentious as, what's his name, Brett Kavanaugh was. I'll give them that. And I understand where they're going, by the way, in terms of making the thing about the Affordable Care Act. But this woman's not normal for the 20th century. And I found it very incredible that she was wearing a red outfit the other day. I put it up. I don't know if you saw it. I put it up on Twitter. I think I put it up on Facebook. I don't think you're on Facebook anymore. But dressed in the same exact shape, red as the handmaiden in The Handmaid's Tale. But some of the things this woman is saying, Matt, are just no in vitro fertilization. And what she's not saying, it's inexcusable. Inexcusable. Your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I mean, where to begin? I don't know what. I think the Democrats were right to, go heavy on the Affordable Care Act as opposed to abortion or other issues. I think in the states that Biden wants to win, abortion would not have been a helpful argument. As for Coney Barrett herself, yeah, look, I think as one of my colleagues said, St. Amy looked for the first time shocked that someone was questioning her sainthood. And I think seemed, very unsettled by this idea that she, people might question whether she could fairly judge an election case in a couple of months. Yeah, look, I mean, I think she's really, she's going to be out there as a justice. I think Clarence Thomas has a new best friend. And I think she's really going to pull them all to the right in a way Gorsuch and Kavanaugh have not. And so I think it is a really big shift.
Which is why I think he has to pack the court and change this. And I'm going to give you something, because she really does not deserve to be on the court. First of all, she only practiced law for 3 lousy years. So let's start there. So she has no real background for this kind of thing. And then she's been a judge for 3 years, if that. But she is not with right-wing America. She is beyond right-wing America. I'm talking right-wing. I'm talking Republican America.
Yeah.
She's even further to the right than Republican America, other than a handful of people. And what's she going to look like when Trump is gone and when these yahoos in the House are gone? Because they're going to be gone, sooner rather than later. I mean, she really is not fit to serve. That's the bottom line. I mean, just on the technicality of it. Okay. And then you get into the ideology of it, and she's so off the mark. I mean, 72% of women and almost 70, I think it's 71 point whatever of men nationwide are pro Roe v. Wade. Do not take that right away. Okay. So there's that. So she is so far away from everybody. And if a court goes so far away, what happens to that court? It loses all legitimacy. Because it's not, the people run the country, not the court. So I think this is a royal setup for something pretty awful. Not to mention, she's a kook. That's what she is. She's a kook. So, I think they'll get her on the bench, but I think something wild is going to happen as a result of it. And
by wild, do you mean their rulings or
no? I think that if the Dems pull off the Senate and the presidency, I think at that point the adult in the room is going to be Biden, who doesn't have a damn thing to lose because he's a one-term president probably, and he's going to go to town. That's what I think, because you can't leave it the way that it is. It every time there's a court decision, it's going to imagine if Roe v. Wade was truly overturned and women got got Biden in. You're talking something that this country, I don't think, would be tolerant of. I think something terrible would really start to bubble up by women in this country. And that's just on Roe. Telling people you can't have in vitro fertilization, it's been the savior of both husbands and wives and family systems now for 20 years. And she's going to vote against that because, it requires an abortion of sorts to get the embryos. I tell you what, I think that the Democrats, if they get in, are going to nip this in the bud soon. I wish we had more time for this, and we, unless you have something incredible to say, do you? You always do.
Nothing. No.
But do you think I'm off the wall by saying that? I'm just telling you. I think she is truly. And I would be interested to see, by the way, if she's voted. Let me just say this last thing: if she's voted in, on the date on the 22nd or whatever it is, I think that'll only further empower women to get out and vote. That's what I think. So it's counterproductive.
Could be.
Oh, there you go. I haven't heard. I was thinking the other day, we haven't been doing could be. You don't have anything further to say other than could be? I'm just, I don't know what the political fallout will be. I think in a way it'll probably help some of the red state Republicans who have been in trouble. So I think in a way the Coney Barrett thing is helping Graham, Ernst, Daines, and a couple others maybe hold on to their seats. It's just bringing back issues that play well in red states, and I think it's going to work for those people at least. So you think that Daines gets back in? I've been watching those poll numbers. Even they're all over the place with Daines. I mean,
can't tell. Don't know. Haven't followed it closely enough.
All right. Well, Real Clear Politics has been very strange on their numbers. But he was at 2.6 ahead on Real Clear Politics forever. And now it's at 3.3 after they had that debate or whatever. And yet other polls are showing them neck and neck. Yeah, I know. But I just don't know, Matt. I just don't know. I just don't think even Republican women are all in for the anti-Roe v. Wade thing. I just don't. The statistics don't tell it. So that's why I don't think getting her on the court helps the Republicans. White men are going to vote against anybody who's a Democrat, period, end of conversation, uneducated white men.
We'll see. We'll see if the main takeaway is she's coming after, your in vitro kids, or if the main takeaway is, she seems nice.
No, she didn't seem nice, and she was a bitch every time she went up against a woman in particular. I mean, she went after Feinstein. Her face turned into, oh my God! And then when Kamala got her, and Kamala just took her to, just dressed her down. It was adorable to watch. And Klobuchar too. I mean, she didn't do well against women, and she didn't hide her feelings to those women. But speaking of Dianne Feinstein, can we just make one quick note about the fact that she said Lindsey Graham was the best hearing she'd ever had and hugged and kissed him, and I wanted to puke. What was that?
Well, yes.
Maybe she knows he's out and he's going to get voted out, and this is his last hurrah. Or she's just dingbat, go home, honey. You've been there too long.
Yeah, hard to say.
It was not a smart move on her part. No. Okay, let's move ahead. Let's move ahead to the stimulus package, which isn't. And McConnell this morning said it ain't gonna be. So there you go. Now that's another one of those messages to people who are freaking out and have no money and can't pay their bills and are lined up for food banks.
Right. The question is, who are they going to blame for that?
It's just, you can't blame the Dems. They've had their package out there from the beginning. I know a lot of Democrats are starting to get on Nancy's case, and I think they're shut up. Just shut up, Democrats, and leave Nancy alone. Just shut up. I said that. You didn't say that.
No, I know you said that.
Okay.
I mean, I can see it both ways. I mean, she's got leverage, so why not use it? But on the other hand, there is a case for just getting some money out there, even if it's less than you want.
I think she's close enough to the election that she can play it.
Right. But, the problem is even if Biden wins, Trump will really should, not do anything between November and January. That means you won't have a stimulus till well into the winter, by which time people are dropping like flies. And
yeah.
I don't know.
I think
it's a risky game.
Yeah, no, I think she's going to come in, but she's going to wait till the very last second to come in if she comes in, and just let them twist in the wind on it. That's and then she'll save the day with some great thing at the end. That's my position on it. I want to talk about Chris.
I hope you're right.
Yeah, okay, and we'll get Chris Christie. I could put this under COVID, which maybe we'll talk about in a second, but I'm going to put this here just because he did a mea culpa on the masks. And I thought it was really interesting that he was able to do that. he was close. My sources tell me he was close to meeting the maker.
Well, he was in the hospital a long time.
But he was he was really.
Well, I think, as I mentioned 1 or 2 shows ago, I saw him at the end of September.
Right, yeah.
And he was wearing a mask and was very conscientious about it and was telling his wife to put one on. And I think he's one of these guys who was conscientious about it generally, but, he was stuck with Trump, not just at that now infamous Amy Phoney Barrett reception in the Rose Garden, but he was also on debate prep with Trump. And I'm sure didn't wear a mask then, and he seems to regret it.
Well, the other part of it is that is he thinking to himself, I've gone along with this Yahoo for so long and he almost killed me?
Could be.
At what point do I stop being, the sycophant? Because, you know what I'm saying? When you get that close to, I may not make it, you start to think, what the hell have I been doing?
Yeah, I don't know if he had an epiphany, a deathbed epiphany.
He had something, because, I'm sure that Trump was not happy about his statement.
No.
And that's for sure. Obama. Can I just say that, boy, he has not I know he's supposedly going out. He was on Pod Save America, his boys' podcast, and he's going to go. But he really has been very lackluster in all of this. I don't know. It's because Biden doesn't really need him because he's doing so well. What? Don't you think it's weird?
Yeah, well, I think he's trying to pick his shots. He had the big convention speech, as did Michelle. I think he's trying to stay low. That's why he. His book release is scheduled for after the election. Yeah. I think there's, I don't know, part of it's strategic, part of it's probably, some of the ex-president ethos that you don't want to overexpose yourself.
Well, I just think it's less than most. And it's surprising because
you might have expected. And it's in more trouble. He'd be out there more.
Yeah. So I just thought I'd mention that. Ben Sass.
Yeah.
Kisses dictators' butts and treats women in ways they shouldn't be treated and flirts with white supremacists.
His shtick is grown tiresome.
Jeez.
I mean, I guess he was a little candid on this call with
a little
Republicans back home, but he's been troubled by Trump since 2016. But in the end of the day, he's just been a loyal soldier.
Yeah, he's an idiot.
Well, he's a Yale PhD idiot, yeah.
They're all Yale and Harvard. They're all idiots.
They're all... idiot isn't quite the right
Yes, it is. Yes, no, because I'm not talking about their intellectual capacity. They are moral idiots. And this is what these colleges are producing today. Gotta say it. This is what they're producing. This didn't come out of nowhere. But there's a certain thought process that's being taught in these schools that is creating these, and it's not just in politics, darling. It's in business and everything else. You do what you got to do. You go after what you got to do. You stay. No, there's just no morality in any of these people. They are all about themselves and getting what they want. And it's despicable. And that is an idiot. I'm not talking about, first of all, not the smartest people in the world. Some people are good at academics. And those are the ones who I think wind up in these top schools these days. They know how to take the tests. They're not always the smartest kid on the block. Smarts comes in many, 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 many different layers. There's smarts intellectual. There's smarts morally.
Yeah. I get it.
All right. So I just needed to say that. But that being said, Sass is, he just plays it. And he always has, and he's really disgraceful. Okay. The New York Post Hunter Biden story, Matt, turns out that they've been looking at Rudy Giuliani for being used by the Russians to, get bad information out there.
Sounds right to me. I mean, it's a very, it's kind of story you want to wear a hazmat suit and have gloves before you touch it. I mean, it's got a lot of stink on it. It's
really
very
does.
Dubious.
Yes.
Everything about it is suspicious. I don't think any other paper in America would have run it. And even its central claim, if true, is not very big deal. I mean, it's just...
It's nothing. It's like everybody else. I mean, I said to, who was I talking to who was not as old and been around politics as long as you and I, said, is there ever anybody who doesn't have a brother or a son attached to them when they're president who doesn't give them some grief? Because they don't... It's just, it is.
Yeah, I try not to explore it.
Yeah.
And...
So, anyway, there it is. Now, but that's Giuliani, and we're all worried about Giuliani because he's not okay. And then his daughter shows up in Rachel Maddow last night and with his Vanity Fair piece about how pro-Biden she is. And did you see that segment?
Well, I did not see the segment. I read the Vanity Fair.
Watch the segment. It's short, but it's interesting. I mean, I wouldn't want to be the daughter. I would not want to be the daughter. It's kind of like Conway's daughter.
Yeah, I think her mother's Donna Hanover, right? I mean, that was like 3 wives ago.
God. Well, doesn't that just say it all? Oh, my.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be very tough growing up, Giuliani.
Lord have mercy in my soul. But she's a smart girl, and I was quite impressed with her delivery, because that's why I said watch it, because she's subtle, and she's fascinating when she's so subtle. I'm going down the list, so I want to get to Florida very briefly, because I have a few things from Florida to talk about.
Sure.
Now it turns out up to 300,000 lawful permanent residents in the state are not going to be able to, 36,000 of them are not going to be able to vote because they never completed the naturalization process, which they have been slowing down. That's national, it's 300,000. Locally in Florida, it's 36,000. Yeah. Voter suppression is alive and kicking. To the point of, oh my God. Now, I was told that there's a real problem in Florida because you remember this whole thing about allowing the felons to vote if they were to pay off their fines. First, it was they were just allowed to vote. So apparently, when all of this happened, a lot of people, felons, went and registered to vote and were given approval, and they're allowed to go vote, Matt. But here's the deal. Then DeSantis took it to the court, and then they said no. Then they said the poll tax thing, you're going to have to pay off your thing. So there are a group of felons, and it's quite a large number from what I understand, who have been voting because they were told they could vote. And now the night of the election, Trump watched them go after this vote and make it a legal question to slow everything down. Because again, they were told they could register to vote. They registered to vote, and then they changed everything. And they're changing it again. So I just take a look, folks, because what's happening down here is they are looking for every single reason to go to court and not declare a winner. That's my point. And I find that very, very, very scary. Because here you go. Oh, I just looked at my notes. I just want to throw this out. Did you know that Trump blocked California fire relief?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last
Did you know that Trump blocked California from fire relief yesterday?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did see that.
I just wanted to throw that out there because that was also despicable. The other thing that's happening down here, and I spoke to the post office here, the mail, out of control. Out of control.
How so?
It's not going anywhere. It can be 10 days behind. They don't have enough staff. They're not restaffing. It's just, they're overwhelmed, and they know it. So there are people out because they are, they can't do the job because of the COVID thing down here. And the Postal Service says, well, you got to deal with what you've got.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay. So this is going to be a huge problem too in the next couple of weeks. Just thought I would do it. On the COVID thing, it's rising across the country, my friend. Oh my God. And they're acting like nothing's happening down here. Everything is totally back to normal in terms of most people aren't wearing masks. It's just scary crap. How's it up there?
Well, D.C. has been pretty good on compliance. I mean, I think we're getting a little bit of a rise, but it's not as bad as a lot of places, and it's coming from a fairly low spot. So, at least in my sort of affluent neighborhood, there's a lot of, everyone's wearing masks and pretty diligent about things. So
that's, Yeah.
Knock wood. Knock wood. I mean, I really don't want to get this thing. I know that goes without saying, but,
No. I mean, for sure. But, Fauci, all of the big guys are out there, reading the Riot Act. Guys, this is really bad. And these numbers are really frightening. And, and down here, it's just so funny to watch because on the Florida state, the other day they had the cases down to like 1,000. And they know from the hospitalizations and the testing that and they're saying the testing is 3% or 3.4%. I think it was in Miami the other day. And the real number from when you talk to the real scientists is, are you kidding? It's 18%, 19% in Florida right now.
Yeah, well, Florida's its own world. But know one thing you're doing right down there.
What's that?
You're counting the mail-in ballots early.
Yeah.
So we could get a really accurate declaration of the winner, and if it's Biden, I think that's going to change everything.
You think the mail-in ballots is it? Because again, the other thing is, Democrats did not register voters, and the registered voters now in Florida are almost equal Democrat to Republican, when for years it was Democrats ahead of Republicans.
But the mail-ins are coming 2-1 in favor of Dems in Florida.
So you think that's enough to beat him at the end?
I'm just saying he's not going to be able to declare victory because he's leading in the in-person voting and say, any ballot that comes in hereafter is illegitimate. He's not going to be able to play that game in Florida or Ohio. And I think if he loses Florida, there's really no way for him to be president. So,
well, as I said, from the ground,
I think you may do the country a great service.
Well,
I'm looking out for your state, Halli. I'm trying to find some good news there.
Listen,
you're always running it down. You're always running it down
because
I'm trying to help you.
Yeah, you're trying to. It's a crazy place. This place, I'm telling you what, it's just crazy. It hasn't. The infrastructure of the state, Matt, has not caught up with the influx of Northerners.
Yes, this has been a problem for 40 years. Absolutely.
And I don't understand why that is. Well, I guess because retired people don't want to go into politics.
Well, yeah, they don't want to pay tax. You've always had the
there's always
retirees don't. Yeah, they don't want to pay for services.
Right. Well, because it's an issue.
Retirees as a percentage of the state is probably going down.
I don't think it is going down. I think families are coming into play again, so that the families are moving down. But I think that'll be the long-term thing, probably, because the old people die off. But there are always old people who want to come.
And boy, the old people like Biden. I mean, Pinellas.
It's amazing,
right?
Yeah,
Pasco.
It's amazing. So we'll see. We'll see.
Up where you are, right?
Yeah. Well, my county is more Democratic than Republican, but the Republicans that had voted, which is why Brian Mast got in and all of these other people.
Yeah, it's swingy.
Well, no, it's not. I mean, registered voters. No, I just got a whole the head of the Democratic Party here. She gave me a whole wow, and she's the more Democrats here, and there I know two Republicans. Everybody else I know around me who I've met in this community are Democrats. There were a lot of people from up north, so we'll have to see.
It's a fluxy state.
It's a screwed up state.
I remember when Tampa had Republican mayors.
You're not going. Well, Tampa still right now is leaning Trump. I have to say this until they get in, Matt, and change who's in control of the Florida legislature. Which is going to happen because the woman who was controlling it, the Republican woman whose name who just passed away about a year ago, who had complete control of everything in the state politically, it will change, but it hasn't changed enough, and that's where the problems begin, is because Tallahassee has so much control over this state.
Yeah,
and until that's cleaned up, and the sheriff's department is the other one. Leaning right. That's the way it's going to be, but little by little.
I mean, you haven't had a governing.
No, that's it.
You've had all these bad governors.
Bad governors. Really bad governors. Absolutely. And the Dems don't have anybody to run that I can see.
No, I mean, the days of kind of Bob Graham and Lawton Childs are long.
Well, his daughter, Bob Graham's daughter ran, and she's delightful.
Yeah.
But
right. But I'm saying the days where they could be nominated and win.
Right. Yeah. So we'll see what happens after this. I want to end on this note. This is a huge changing election, obviously, but I think we need to keep our eyes on the ball on a new party rising. And this is really forward thinking, but I want to raise it very quickly, and because I think it's a positive thing. These never Trumpers are not going back to the Republican Party, and that Republican Party is going to stay in its hot mess for a little bit of a while. And I think we have to all acknowledge that, even if Biden and we get the Senate. Won't that be lovely? But there's this mess that's in the Republican Party, so it doesn't get cleaned up overnight. But I do see something happening in a shift in the Democratic Party, where everybody else says it was moving so far to the left, and Bernie Sanders and all these young kids and stuff like that. I'm not so sure. And I think that the Democratic Party is going to be an amalgamation of these Republican never Trumpers, who've given who aren't stuck in on the crap with the issues, guns, the Second Amendment and birth abortion. I think they're saying none of it's been worth it, all of where we are. So I say that the rising Democratic Party is going to be something very unique as time goes on. And maybe be actually the source that doesn't push us so far to the left that we're off the beaten track, forgetting the young ones, from New York, from the Bronx or whatever. I do think that something interesting is going to happen in the Democratic Party that moves it more to a centrist, truly centrist party that's going to be far more embracing and more and encompassing than anything it's been in the past. Any thought before we say?
Could be. I don't know. It's tough to break the two-party system. And tough to.
I don't think they are going to break it. I just think that the Republican Party is doomed for a while.
Well, that I agree. I think it's a Trumpian party for a while.
Yeah. Which gives the Democratic Party a lot of elbow room, a lot of playtime, a lot of growth.
Remember in the 80s, Democrats had to lose like 3 big ones in a row before they changed.
Right. So I think we're into fascinating times. Whatever. Till next week, my friend.
Till next week. Stay safe, Halli.
I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, a production of Resec LLC. The Halli Casser-Jayne Show posts new podcasts Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern, and is available at hallicasserjayne.com and on all your favorite apps. Be sure to visit us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and follow me on Twitter at The Halli CJ Show. Until next time, this is Halli Casser-Jayne.